He bore every burden. He was totally our substitute. He was our God-appointed representative, Son of Man, bearing in himself the perfect nature of humanity and all humanity's problems, griefs, and agonies. I'm going on now with Isaiah chapter 53, verses 7, 8, and 9. He, this Son of Man, was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And who can speak of his descendants? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was stricken. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. There are various things emphasized there, all of which applied with perfect accuracy to the trial and the death of Jesus. First of all, his innocence is consistently emphasized. It says in the closing verse, he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Also, it's emphasized that he did not attempt to defend himself or to plead his own cause. As a sheep before her shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. He did not justify himself. He did not defend himself. He was the lamb led willingly to the slaughter. Then it's emphasized that his trial was unjust. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. It was a judgment, but it was a judgment of oppression. It was unjust. And it emphasizes that he died. He was cut off from the land of the living, but he didn't die for himself. For the transgression of my people, Isaiah says, he was stricken. And then with amazing accuracy it gives the details of his death. It says he was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. But the remarkable fact is that in the original Hebrew the word wicked is in the plural, but the word rich is singular. True enough, in the record of the Gospels, Jesus was crucified with the two thieves, the two wicked men, but then his tomb was the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, the one rich man. So we see every detail exactly fulfilled in Jesus. Now we go on to the last three verses which sum it all up. Isaiah 53 verses 10, 11 and 12. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his soul or his life a guilt offering, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After the suffering of his soul, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong. Because he poured out his life or his soul unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. We see that although there was oppression and injustice, yet it was the fulfillment of God's purpose. It was the Lord's will to crush him. God had foreordained that it should be this way. Then we see by implication his resurrection. It has already spoken of his death, but it says after his death, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. That's after death. And then it says in the next verse, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. And then it's emphasized that all this was to justify many, to acquit them of their guilt. It says, my righteous servant will justify many. And then it goes on to say, he will bear their iniquities. That's how justification or righteousness or acquittal is made possible to us. By the knowledge, Jesus, the Lord's righteous servant, bore our iniquities, suffered our punishment, and therefore turned away the wrath and the judgment of God from us. It says also that he poured out his life or his soul unto death. That's so vivid because in the Old Testament it says the soul or the life of the flesh is in the blood. And on the cross, Jesus poured out his whole life, his entire blood as the sinner's substitute. It says also that he was numbered with the transgressors. We pointed out already that he was crucified with the thief. And finally that he made intercession for the transgressors. And that began even while he was on the cross. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So you see how perfectly accurate in every detail is this amazing prophetic picture of Messiah's sufferings, the sufferings of the Son of Man, given 700 years before it took place. Well, our time is up for today. I'll be back with you again tomorrow at this time. Tomorrow I'll return to this prophetic picture in Isaiah and show you just how God's plan was perfectly fulfilled.